Okay, let's unpack this. For this deep dive, we're looking at just a single day.
December 17th, 2025.
And we're trying to find that exact intersection, where these huge global policy decisions,
Or failures.
right, failures, meet corporate power and how all of it ends up hitting your wallet.
And our mission here is really to analyze those agenda-setting events.
Yeah.
The ones that actually affect economics, finance, state power.
We're looking for a pattern, right?
A very clear one. It's this growing disconnect between what's promised politically and what people actually feel. That material relief. We want to know who gains and who loses when that system doesn't deliver.
Okay, so let's start right there with the domestic mood. We're calling it the affordability disconnect.
Yeah, and it's this strange trap, isn't it? The sources say the current administration is facing the exact same problem as the last one.
Voters are just dour is the word they use. They feel squeezed by costs.
Even when the official metrics suggest the economy is,
Yeah.
well, it's doing okay.
And that gap is everything.
It's critical. I mean, we're seeing the unemployment rate tick up to 4.6%. That's the highest it's been since November of 2021.
And this is despite all the campaign promises, right? Tax cuts, rolling back regulations.
All things that were supposed to help. But that relief just isn't translating into, say, lower prices at the supermarket. The benefit isn't flowing down.
Which means political trouble.
Big trouble for the party in power.
So domestic policy is struggling. What about on the global stage?
Well, it looks like it's outright failing. Just look at the tariffs on Chinese goods. We're talking about the highest rate since 1935.
And the whole point was to force a change to benefit American industries. So what did the data actually show?
It showed that China just shrugged it off. I mean, their trade surplus cleared $1 trillion for the first time ever.
$1 trillion? How?
They just rerouted their exports. They started selling more to other countries and completely bypassed the U.S. pressure point. So the policy, it just didn't work.
Okay, so government trade policy isn't lowering your costs. Let's bring it even closer to home. Let's talk about one of the biggest, most non-negotiable costs for any family.
Healthcare.
And that financial anxiety we were just talking about. It's turning into a full-blown healthcare crisis.
What are the numbers on that?
A new Gallup poll shows that nearly a quarter of Americans, 23%, see the healthcare system as being in crisis.
And their number one problem is?
High costs. 29% said that's the most urgent issue. And that's across the board, politically.
And yet, the Senate just blocked the extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies.
Right.
I mean, if everyone is so worried about costs, why on earth would they let those expire?
It's a huge legislative failure. And it has a direct, measurable price tag for people, the KFF.
The Kaiser Family Foundation.
Exactly, a nonpartisan group. They estimate that if these subsidies go away, which looks almost certain now, the average premium could double.
For millions of middle-class and lower-income families, we're not talking about a small budget adjustment. That's a choice between your health insurance and your rent.
Wow. Okay, so that connects government inaction to a direct hit on your finances. Now let's connect it to, well, pure corporate power, specifically the high cost of being a whistleblower.
This is where it gets really chilling. We're seeing former employees from big tech, people who raised alarms about, election integrity or harm to young people.
And their careers are just over.
They're basically exiled from the industry they tried to hold accountable.
But the Meta case, the one against Sarah Wynne Williams, that's something else entirely.
It's stunning. They didn't just fire her. They won an arbitration case against her, seeking, and this is a quote, at least tens of millions of dollars.
For what? Just to keep her quiet?
Permanently. The ruling isn't just about public statements.
Yeah.
The source says it bars her from saying anything disparaging, critical, or otherwise detrimental about Meta.
Even to her own family.
Even to her husband or her kids. This is beyond standard corporate legal strategy. This is about controlling someone's private life.
They're sending a message.
A very clear, very expensive message. Accountability comes with a financial risk that could bankrupt you.
So let's connect the dots here. What does this all mean for you?
I mean, the pattern across all these stories from this one day it's pretty unmistakable.
You have government promises on trade, on affordability, on healthcare, and they're all falling short.
And at the same time, you have corporate interests using, frankly, aggressive financial power to enforce silence and protect their capital.
So you, the voter, the consumer, you're just caught right in the middle of it all.
Facing rising costs from every direction, driven by systemic failure.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on.
The sources also mentioned something pretty interesting. A White House East Wing renovation is being funded by $300 million in private corporate money.
And we're talking big names here: Amazon, Lockheed Martin, Palantir.
So here's the question we want to leave you with. When major corporate money is directly funding parts of the government's own infrastructure, how does that intersection influence which problems get solved first?
Does the affordability crisis get that same level of attention? That's the real question about who holds the power.